Hi, everybody, and welcome to Table Talk. This is a Dice Night podcast. I'm your host, and sometimes called the world's okayest DM, Casey Cool. With me tonight is the producer, all-around cool guy, Dan Muñoz of Nat1Fun. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really good. I want to first thank you for being the very first guest ever on Table Talk.
That's special. I feel I feel obligated to make sure that this is going to be like the best talk show ever.
I was really curious if Unhinged Dan from Twitter was going to come on.
Hold on, that was a day ago. That way you missed it by one day.
Okay, I was just I didn't know. Maybe commit to the bit. This is just who you are now. Yeah. And actually, we just really want to talk about Fishblade. I think that's all we should talk about. What a meme, right?
That was epic. Yes, absolutely. And also, Fishblade is not a joke. It's a serious ordeal. Serious business.
Right. Serious. Super serial.
I'm just waiting for all the epic takes on it that actually become games like people are actually playing. I want to see those.
I'm a huge One Piece fan, so in my mind, I was thinking already, I want to be a whale shark guy, and I'm a monk. Yeah, give me a nautical themed tabletop role playing game. I'm all for it. I'm all for all sorts of games these days. Well, Dan, so you are a professional GM.
Yes.
Now you work for Star. You run out of Start Playing Games, right? That's the company. With,
So
Devin
if I run a game online, it's usually through startplaying.games. I found them, I think like a year ago or something around that time.
Yeah.
I got a really slow start with them, but being able to speak with the creators of the website and everything like that, and also a lot of employees and stuff, they kind of, hey, you should try out this website, and I'm like, sure, let me check it out, and lo and behold, I end up going and start running games through there, and it's really nice, really easy, really I guess secure and safe for like the players when it comes to payments and stuff like that. It's a really great platform for paid dungeon mastering.
Well, it's so cool that that's a thing. Also, you can be, I want to play D&D. I want to try D&D. I think a lot of people get really apprehensive because they can find the game or any tabletop game really cumbersome.
Yeah,
and you offer a service. It's just fun. It's like going to a movie. It's cool. It's an experience, and you can review GMs. Linda, the Gamer Gals in chat. Hi, Linda. And I do like that. You got a little bit of Uber. I wonder on your end, can you rate players secretly and be like, do not play?
Honestly, I know you can mute players and block players, but I don't know if you can rate them. Maybe you can. I just haven't explored that portion of it.
I'm sure you've had some pretty nice experiences, right? No unhinged players.
No, I haven't had any unhinged players yet. No. And what's really good about Start Playing too, and I guess my general take on professional GMing is that I set a pretty good precedence right out the gate. This is me personally. I don't just open my games to anyone. What I do is I basically open my games to allow people to apply for them. And then once they apply for them, I kind of hold a one-on-one. Like I get to talk to them a little bit. Right. It's not necessarily a session zero. It's more along the lines of clarifying my expectations, and also wondering exactly what their expectations of the game are. And then once we go through that, then it's like, okay, I believe you could fit well with like the people I've already gathered and stuff like that, and then I will accept them into the game. And then from there, we have many more steps before the game even starts. So
I run session, building characters. Exactly. I'm a teacher by trade, but I run the D&D club at my school.
Oh, that's perfect.
And it's so popular. I do it 3 days with 3 different groups. It's really fun, but it's a lot of, okay, let's teach I need to teach you what stats mean. Like tomorrow they're doing skill checks. So I'm sure it's you kind of have to be a teacher, right? In a way.
100%. Yeah. I was in the military for 10 years and 4.5 of those years I was a teacher. I was an instructor for my job.
Right. Yeah. And so I feel like people like you are a rules guy then, and that's why you like DMing, because I'm a rules guy and I like structure and I want things to be a certain way.
Yeah, so I guess the way I imagine rules, or the way I look at rules when it comes to D&D is, or any tabletop game, this is just kind of like my way of game mastering, is I love to think of them as like the skeletal structure of the game. But really the things that make the game move and go are like the muscles. And I consider the players to be the muscles of the game. So if they want to do something that's not necessarily what the bones want to do, well, the bones are there just in case, but you can always move that muscle however you want. And that bone's going to go along with you. So to me, I think GMing is really fun if you take those rules and just use them with a grain of salt sometimes and go with what you believe is the most fun in the moment. But
Right.
knowing those rules is important because you need to know how to handle a situation if something comes up that you're not exactly sure.
Consequences need to be real, but rule of cool is always a fun one to
Oh,
abide by.
100%.
So how did you start playing D&D?
Oh man. So I mean, I guess it's funny because I started playing when I was, I think, 14 years old. And my buddy had invited me over to his house, and it was just his brother who was, I think, like 2 or 3 years older than us, and then my friend and I, and his brother was the GM. Um, and we started playing, but I didn't know what we were doing. They just were like, "Hey, we're gonna play this role playing game," and I'm like, "Cool." Um, we ended up playing for like 2 years. But
And
the thing
now,
is
isn't that the meme?
right. But the
Start
thing
a one shot turns into a 5-year campaign.
yeah, but the thing is I have no idea what we actually played because back then I didn't have a player's handbook. I didn't
Right.
know that there was a dungeon master guide. I was handed a character sheet and some dice, and that was the game. So I don't know what I played. I assume I played Dungeons and Dragons, but who knows? I do remember making a bard. That's all I remember. uh, anyways, cut to we played sporadically throughout the years. I went from Dungeons and Dragons to I played a little bit of Dungeon World with some friends who were interested in that, and then I kind of got cut off from TTRPGs for a while, and then about 5 or 6 years ago, I picked it up pretty often. I started playing actually like in person games.
Yeah.
And then I ventured into my first foray into online playing right around when Critical Role was starting to really pick up.
Uh-huh.
And my first ever campaign that I GM'd was Tomb of Annihilation. And it was with a group that we called ourselves the Critters versus the Tomb of Annihilation because I found the group from a Critical Role fan page on Facebook.
That's cool.
That's how that worked.
So okay, so you've been playing for 15 years, you played some amalgamation of D&D, kid rules, right? But just
Yeah.
fun because you're playing for 2 years. For you, how many games now do you play?
Like on a weekly basis?
On a weekly basis, yeah.
On a weekly basis, I think I play 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are some of those just for love of the game kind of thing?
Like one of them is an absolute like friends only, like,
yeah, you have to, right?
Secret game. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just one of those where, if for me at least, if I don't do something like this, I think I don't ever want Dungeons and Dragons or TTRPGs to become a job. It's still a hobby.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it because it's a hobby. And because of that, I feel like maybe like once a week, maybe once every couple weeks, hell, once a month to just dive back into the hobby for what it is, where you found that love instead of just like trying to, please other people to make sure that they keep coming back.
Right. I think that's got to be it. People that play at your clip have to play so much, and there's got to be that one that's extra special. How big is that private group? What's your ideal table size?
Oh, what's my ideal table size?
Yeah.
Oh man, I would say probably 4 players. I think 4 players is pretty intimate.
That's enough. The sweet spot, I think, too.
It's pretty intimate. Like you get a lot of time with each player. And you get to really dive into each encounter because everybody gets a turn pretty often, or often enough to where people don't lose interest. It's when you start getting to like 6 and 7 players and stuff like that, 8 players, then it's like, then you're running a table quick and you have to really run through everything, and then your combat encounters kind of get a little bit more difficult too, because you're having to really get that action economy down and make sure that everybody is getting a turn, make sure that enemies are threatening not just to one person but to the whole group.
There's not really as much description either. You can't give them a cool, gory detail. You shoot the arrow. Oh, what'd you roll? 12? Okay, damage. Good. Okay, moving on. It's more kind of like, yeah, okay.
You try still, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
You can't really take that time unless you have 12 hours. You know, I feel like, but that's the other thing too. How long do your sessions usually run when you play a game?
So professionally, my games usually run about 3 to 4 hours. Okay. I try to make sure that you get decent content in. It's not too short. You're not getting, screwed over by paying too much for too little time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also you're not running an 8-hour session. So I said professionally, I run about 3 to 4 hours. Now in my own games and stuff like that, or like games on the side, I can run anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, just, between friends. Like we've basically cut out a whole day just to be like, we're going to hang out, we're going to play, but the thing is when you're playing with friends and stuff like that, you're not always playing. You could always, you could be like, you could break for food, or you can chat for a little bit, or you can
play a video game really quick, do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a hang. That's the other thing too. And with the hang, it's the bounce. Cause my one friend, my darkest secret, I had never played a game in person, and it makes me so sad. And so I started this campaign with my buddies, about a year and a half ago. And the goal is when we do the final part, because the story arc's been going, that we're going to do the final session for that in game. But we do the show. So we have a couple games running, and I'm doing Icewind Dale with them. Your Icewind Dale music that you put on your YouTube page is killer, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you like it.
Resources. Yeah.
That is actually custom made music for our campaign by an incredible composer called named Makeshift. You can find him. Well, I mean, if you go to any of those songs, you can find them in the description.
Yeah.
I bless the stars every day, because Makeshift, after he actually found us
cool,
while we were doing an actual play, and he was like, hey man, if you ever need music or something like that, let me know. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll hit you up. So I hit him up once, and we ended up making like a whole album together.
Man, I need a music man in my life. That's so rad, because I've been dealing with like copy-free stuff, or copyright-free, and just trying to find things that set. It's been interesting. And so that with your games, how regular is it? The ones they're weekly, or your personal session, is that like a bi-monthly thing?
Yeah, personal session, it runs once every couple weeks, and then the paid games, they run weekly. I do those every week. But I have 3 of those that I run on, what is it, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then my own at-home game we play on Sundays.
Yeah. And then you've been doing some side projects. I know you're talking about playing other games. I saw you with Johnny Stanton, former Browns fullback. Is he DMing that project?
He is. Yeah. He is. This is his first foray into DMing for a table, and no spoilers or anything, but he absolutely freaking killed it. He did a great job. I mean, everybody was on pins and needles.
Yeah, I believe it. I really liked the coverage that ESPN and Sports Illustrated did on him. I thought that was
video
really cool.
Was so cool, wasn't it?
Yeah. I wanted to make my fantasy team that logo and be Dungeons and Drag Hooks this year. I was really close to it. But with that game, I obviously can't spoil. Can you say what you're playing?
Well, actually, I as much as I would love to say that I'm playing in that game, I unfortunately am not playing it. I'm actually producing and editing the game.
Oh,
so I'm doing behind the scenes work on that game versus in the actual campaign.
Okay.
Yeah. So even though you might have seen me in screenshots and stuff like that, I'm on screen, but I'm not actually on the stream. So
that way he can just DM and someone can run the camera.
That's literally
Oh
yeah. It's
like a show. Stuff.
Yeah.
I
do all the tech production for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. I'm curious. I've been seeing the screenshots, and I can only imagine there's some big people in that name. That's cool.
Man, that last screenshot where everybody's cracking up. I cannot wait for people to watch that scene.
He's got the deadpan face too.
He's got like the.
Every DM's had that face where your group does something so dumb, and you have to just sit there and take it on the chin and be like, he finds you attractive. Like you wrote whatever. It's usually a bard trying to seduce something. When's that project premiere?
So well, hopefully, fingers crossed. We're looking for like an early February release.
Okay.
I think we're also looking to be releasing on Mondays. So early February, Mondays, not 100,000% solidified just yet, but that's
Yeah.
what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Things come up.
Yep.
Our whole thing was getting that session one. We kept pushing it back because there was a family issue, or someone in their family got ill. So we're like, we're just gonna get the game with everybody's ready. When it's time, it's time. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Scheduling is the true killer of D and
Oh
D.
yeah. I don't know how many times you see that meme. The scheduling is the true BBG. But yeah.
All the time, and it's the truth.
Yep. It is.
I had my very first group. That's what killed it, because someone moved to Germany, and so our clocks were way off.
It's adult gaming, when you play when you're a kid and you just have like 30 hours in a day to just play
do whatever
games and do whatever you want with no responsibilities. Like that was the life.
Yeah.
Now you got kids and you got family, you got
Mhm.
jobs if if you don't do this for a living. So it's like there's so many things you have to schedule around and everything like that it makes it like you're dodging a minefield in order to get a game in.
For sure. You're a dad too, so you
Yeah.
balance that. Your oldest is a teenager. Do you play D&D with them yet? Wait, how many have they asked? Have they like give me the dice? Is it
So, so I have three children. One is the youngest is 2 years old. Then I have a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old. So, the 2-year-old is obviously just two. So he
yeah,
the most he does is probably grab a dice that we're messing with and just like huck it across the
huck it?
room.
Look how far I
Um,
threw this, Dad.
yeah, exactly. We do have a pretty cool little plush D20 that he plays with a lot.
Love it.
But no, the 4-year-old, we have introduced her in like to I guess the world of like adventuring
Yeah.
slash like fantasy and stuff like that. So she like knows what like a ranger is and she knows what a druid is and stuff like that. But she hasn't played it. But I will say this. I just received a lot of amazing stuff and a project called what is it? Color My
The
RPG.
coloring book, that you got. I
Yes.
saw that too. I really want to get a copy because my 4-year-old daughter would love that.
Color My
Uh,
RPG, I think is
yeah.
what it's called.
Here, I'll pull
But
that up.
yes, I like literally if I could promote for one thing in my life. No, it's honestly it's incredible because it's like a series of books. So there's
Yeah.
some books that are for learning, like it teaches them to write, and some of them have like different characters for the letters and stuff like that. But there is Color My Quest, I believe is what it's called. Color
Yes,
My
I have
Quest.
it right here.
Um
Um,
so yes, yeah, that's what it is. Color My Quest.
yeah,
Uh
I
and
was eyeing it. I was gonna uh, pay into it, but my wife gets really mad when she sees random Kickstarters or Patreon
oh
things.
no, yeah, you gotta be
I go,
careful.
"Oh yeah,
You dive in that
about
hole.
that." Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I
Um,
got to say it.
so Color My Quest is a really great concept because it allows for extremely young children, 4, 5, 6 years old or whatever, to actually play a TTRPG. So
Yes,
not only are you coloring these coloring books, but there are actual sections where
right,
you can make characters and like have them imagine what would be happening and stuff like that. And there are rules and there are
man.
like outlines and stuff like
Right.
that, how to teach your kids how to play. It's
This
incredible.
I am gonna actually kick drop to this later because this would be perfect. I want to get a copy for my classroom for my
Oh
D&D
yeah.
club.
Oh, that'd be great.
Because the map part, especially, because when you just let the kids are naturally their imagination super inventive, can come up with things on the fly, very creative. I want to see what kind of worlds they build and how they start playing out their little maps, because I have a bunch of Pathfinder maps and I'll let them play through that, and they just make up sequences and stories and get going. They don't really care about their friend's backstory or things like that.
Yeah, no, when we're talking about a
Definitely tell
4-year-old,
my wife this.
you're lucky to have their attention for more than like 5 seconds.
Right,
So,
right, right.
you got to be like, you can color this while I talk or something like that. Or,
Hmm.
if you kind of you have to engage them constantly, and that's what this allows you to do. It really, looking over it and stuff like that, it's super engaging and fun.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess moving on to like my oldest daughter, she's played two games. One she's played D&D, obviously,
Okay.
but she's also played the One Ring, the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we played the One Ring together, and she really enjoyed that. That was fun. We all
Okay.
played a group of dwarves. And then yeah, so like I think we played Saltmarsh, a game from D&D, one of the little
Yeah, one
Saltmarsh
of the
mini
first.
adventures.
Yeah, one of the first modules, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Ghost of
I
Saltmarsh, yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. I'm looking. My son's 7, and he's really into it. I got him the D&D books that talk about classes, the 4-book series where it's the monsters and wizards, and he's read those. He wants to be a Dragonborn paladin. He's already got it set. I said, okay, we'll do it. We will do it. But I need to figure out if we do it 2 little friends or something there. But I see that like, oh, a family game would be really fun. So, but is your friend game different? Is that separate from your family game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, family games usually only last like, the one time or whatever. Or
Yeah.
if we want to play, it's usually just one night of gaming, kind of like a board game night, but we don't
Yeah.
ever like return to the same story. We try to come up with new stuff every time.
Oh,
I
cool.
don't know if it's just more engaging for my kid like that, but I feel like every time we do that, she gets to create new stuff, and
Right.
she enjoys creating the stuff.
Creating the character is some of the best part,
Yeah,
and
it
then
really is.
yeah, yeah. I
No, at home game though, we play separate from family.
There you go. You and your pals.
Yeah, just a couple buddies.
Yeah, yeah. That's how sometimes that's how Dice Night got its name because we were like, oh, it's Dice Night. Sorry, honey, I got Dice Night tonight because we just want to throw dice.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's funny that there's all these other tabletops that are out there. My first was Pathfinder. That was the first tabletop I was exposed to when I was like in my mid-20s.
Nice.
And then I was just waiting for someone to invite me to a D&D game because I was told you can't ask to be in a D&D game because it's super rude. And I don't know if that's true. I think you need to ask. Closed mouths don't get fed. If you want to play, ask somebody.
Absolutely.
And that for me was, I had my one friend, he moved, Sean, he's in the group, he's like, hey, we're doing a game. I'm like, yes, before he could even, and everybody loves what was your first, do you remember your first class? What's your first class? I like, Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
First concert, best concert, more so first class, favorite class.
So first class I ever played, I was a bard. And
right, you said that. That's right.
Yeah, I stuck with bard for years. So if anybody plays with me, if anybody gets to play with me at any point, you'll know that I like to play like utility characters.
Support.
I'm only useful out of combat, essentially. I like to think outside the box during combat versus like attack the guy,
right,
or whatever it is. I love playing bard because I love supporting my other players and stuff like that. I always try to boost their powers or help them in any way. But recently I have swapped from bard being my favorite class to artificer.
Oh,
I have just like this deep love for artificer, and it took me a while to understand why, because I've always loved bard. But the reason I love artificer so much is because of the ability to flavor all your spells from being these just like pew pew magic shoots out of my fingers because sorcery,
right,
into how could I scientifically explain fire flying out of my fingertips, either through potions or
right,
mechanisms or technology, whatever it might
right.
be. Like, you create those instances and you get to literally just rewrite the whole book. And I think that's my favorite part, is being able to rewrite the entire book. You don't rewrite the mechanics, but you rewrite how they happen and what they look like.
Dan in the chat. No, Dan, no bard. Bard rule. They want you to stick with the bard life. Yeah, artificers are a hard class to play too.
They are. I mean, I would say for sure it's a more advanced class.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you play for 20 years,
right. For you, you're like, oh, exciting, right? Let me see how I can. It becomes when you play more, or when you DM more. How can I break the game, or how can I push the game to really as far as I go? Yeah, for me, I get flack for this. I'm a ranger man. That was my first class.
Oh, you know what? One of my best friends, he is like ranger. Like, the thing is he plays characters, and I guess this is a hit against rangers, but not. Also, because like he loves them, but he plays characters that are kind of like normal, average, everyday Joes.
Yeah.
So he likes to play like a human. He likes to play
Right.
a ranger and
Oh,
everything like that because he likes to get thrown into a world of fantasy as just like a normal guy trying to survive
right.
in that world. Yes, he has a little bit of magic, and yes, he can do extraordinary things, but you don't get to turn into, this, or you don't get to, shoot those big old flaming balls of, it's that kind of stuff.
Right. For me, I there's a book series I love called Ranger's Apprentice, but I like to play him more stealthy and a little bit kind of Rambo. And it's also the animal companion. Like if you see
Oh yeah,
my loyal pet here
sure.
over here by me because I'm turning around. The
I
the
thought that was
running
a piece
gag
of
is
fried chicken. Is
no,
that?
that's my golden retriever. That's Millie.
I love it.
Yeah, that's her bed.
Adorable.
And somebody, it's my favorite when someone comes in chat goes, "Oh, you need to make your bed." I go, first off, that's the dog's bed, and she needs to learn to make it herself. But she's my loyal steed. I've been wanting to play. I had this concept. As a DM, do you ever just write down a character and be like, "Man, I hope I get to play this someday."
Oh,
That's my thing all the time.
before like all the digital like character sheets and everything like that, I had like a stack of character sheets in a notebook that just had random characters that I would just think of like on like, man, would this would be fun, or this would be funny.
Yeah,
Look at this funny thing, or like,
yeah,
oh, what if I did
same.
this?
I have a running thing on my on my phone notes that I want to make YouTube shorts of called classes I'll never get to play. And the ranger, I had this idea for the Drake Warden Ranger, but it's Turner and Hooch. Like
Okay.
he doesn't want the dragon, but he has to befriend the dragon kind of
Yeah.
thing, you know,
Yep.
those buddy cop dog movies. I
Hmm.
want that storyline. That's it. Me and Tom Hanks. That's the thing. I think that as a it's hard because you play the game so much, but when you get really bit by D&D, you think about it a lot. Like when you're walking or doing stuff.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah. What are your favorite D&D podcasts or other D&D shows that you like to watch and take in?
Unfortunately, days like today, I don't have time
Yeah.
necessarily to really sit down and listen to podcasts like I used to. Um, I've listened to plenty of them like in the past,
Yeah.
but I mean, to be honest, my foray, my jump into the professional side of things was pretty quick, and then when that happened, all that kind of watching and stuff like that
Right.
jumped down. But I mean, it started with Critical Role,
Yeah.
Dimension 20.
Dimension
um
20 is great.
I'm also a huge fan of Dungeons and Daddies.
Yeah,
um
they're great. They're hilarious. Freddie Wong
uh
kills it.
Yep. I
Uh,
got I have a friend who does another podcast that has I think close to 6 trillion episodes. I can't remember. It's somewhere give or take. There's a lot of episodes.
yeah.
Anyways, she has this show called Backwater Bastards.
Mm.
And it is a sci-fi space.
Western.
Nah, yeah, Western, you could call it. Yeah, it's like a off the wall space show, like
Cool.
think Spelljammer with like and it's a completely original system that they came up with too. It has no other. It's not actually like a D20 system or whatever it might be. So yeah. Anyways, I Backwater Bastards is great. I don't know. There's a lot, but honestly, those are the only ones that I can just remember off the spot. And the thing is again, I don't listen to a lot of
Right.
them, unfortunately. Again, my free time usually gets taken up by either like a video game or spending time
Or
with my
children. Oh,
family.
you're a gamer too. Yeah. That's the thing too. It's for me, it's the dog walks because Goldens do need if
I
you
need a
get
lot of
the
attention.
if you get the sporting kind like I did by accident. I wanted one of the
The
big fat
sport
fluffy
edition.
ones. Yeah, they're bird dogs, right? So she gets
Yeah.
a 3 mile walk every day. So it's nice. Like it's my
Oh, that's
morning
great.
workout. Yeah. And so, but for me, and then sometimes I'm like, I need to quit listening because then I start thinking about my like things I want to do campaign story wise and pull from them. I've gotten a lot of philosophy from them too. And I think over time you get philosophy, like how you run a table. Uh, I think for like newer players, session zeros are super important,
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
a clear house rule. What are some house rules you love? What are some house rules that you run?
So, it's funny because I always say I don't really run that many house rules, but when I get into it, I'm like, I guess I kind of do run a few.
If you run more than 5, you run.
No, well, I
Yeah,
think it's like around there,
yeah,
anyways.
that's good.
Pretty close to it. Anyways, a lot of them come at the very beginning of the game. So, like, house rule one is if you roll superhero stats, because like I usually want my players to roll their stats.
Yeah,
That's normally how I do things, at least.
the 4 6s, take the best 3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So if they roll like superhero stats and they've got like 3 18s, a 15, and a 16 and 17 or something like that, and it's just like off the wall superhero, they can completely re-roll their stat block if they wish. Again, I'm a fan of like challenge.
right,
Somebody if they roll, then it's like, oh crud, that's kind of like not that great.
right. Your average is a 60, not good.
Right. So if you're looking at stats where it's like the lowest stat is a +3, then it's like, come on, let's work these around to where we can get something going to make it, I
Right.
guess, more story fun.
It's not fun when your character can do everybody's job.
Yes, exactly. And that's where I think a dump stat is pretty important in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
Because to me, on a character building, I guess, on a character building point of view, if you have a low stat in something, you can build your character around that thing.
right,
So if you have that low stat in intelligence, then you have like a not so smart character.
right.
They make not so smart decisions during the game.
Right,
Or
it
if
helps with the storytelling. Like double
exactly.
down. They're the reason when you do a character description, strength and flaws. People glance over the flaws. The flaws are sometimes the best part of your character, right?
That's what
And
makes us characters, is those
yeah,
flaws.
yeah. I tell my students it's okay to be bad at something in this game and double down on it. Like if you're a barbarian, do you need to be the smartest? No, you might just want to be smash, right?
Yep.
And
And I love subverting expectations too.
yeah, yeah.
I've run a game before where my barbarian used intelligence as their rage modifier and all
Oh,
their modifiers and stuff like that, because they wanted to have a smart barbarian. And
okay.
so they were able to, they basically lowered their strength, gave it intelligence and stuff like that. Obviously, they kind of looked a little bit, they wanted to still look strong or whatever,
Right,
but mechanically, the way it worked and how they role played it was their character was smart.
right.
And instead of using rage, like raw rage, it was more of a calculated, like Sherlock Holmes, know exactly what the fight is and everything like that. And so their moves, much like a battle master or something like that,
Like a
for like a
reptilian
fighter,
brain. Yeah.
right? They were able to foresee moves coming and get those bonuses to attacks and stuff like that.
Interesting. That would be a great subclass. Some type of, the monks have the astral fist, right? Like some type of psychic power that
Yeah,
imbues a
yeah,
psychic barbarian. That'd be
yeah.
rad. Writing
Well,
that
you
down.
got like what you got like strength fighter, or you got strength fighter and you got dex fighter, right?
Right, right,
I think it would be cool to have like an int barbarian or
right.
a
Strength
strength
barbarian.
barbarian kind of thing.
Me too. I love that because the thing with int, my current group, no one put anything in the int. I'm like, your investigations are gonna suck. Like that was, I thought of it from that part. You need someone that plays that role,
Yeah.
and you have wizards and artificers, but most other things, unless some sorcerers will give their guys int. But yeah, it's always interesting. I had a kid that he built a rogue and he gave his worst stat dex and he gave his best stat int, and it's because he wasn't listening to me when I said
Okay. Yeah.
and I was running his game because they had a kid that was not necessarily listening to them, and I was like, okay, so roll, you're gonna have stealth. He's like, yeah. I'm like, you're gonna kill this. I go, what? He goes, what's your stealth? -2. And I go, how? And it was the best rogue ever. I'm like, you're the worst, best rogue because he could investigate and find everything and move the story along.
Yeah.
He was
Yep.
into the talking part.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that. I mean, you know, Was Sherlock Holmes like the master of sneaking around? Well, no, he was the master of disguise. So maybe his
Master's Guide.
charisma was
Yeah,
super
right.
high and his intelligence was super high, but his dex might have been like terrible. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. Robert Downey Jr. threw some
Robert Downey
hands.
Jr. definitely did it justice
Yeah.
in that regard. But yeah,
That movie's good. So you talked about what games are you playing? What video games are you playing right now?
so just got done with God of War 3.
Okay.
Then I just played a little bit oh god, what is it called? High on Life. I played a little bit of High
Oh,
on Life.
the Rick and Morty guy.
Yeah, the Rick and Morty guys. Oh gosh.
I've heard that's very good. I've heard that's a very good game. And I
It's
know God of War is great story.
yeah, God of War is just a game of the century. Yeah. But no, the Rick and Morty game is like it's okay.
It's
It's
okay.
like it's playable to the end.
Yeah.
It's if I can finish a game, then it's
That's
good.
okay.
It's like
That's
it's
good.
okay.
Right. Right. It's
If
not gonna blow your socks off. It's not
yeah,
like this amazing narrative. It's more Rick and Morty. You know what you're getting, and if you like that, that's okay. And if you're
yeah,
okay
exactly,
with it,
right?
right. If you enjoy good gameplay, that's what I pick up on it too. It's the
See, that's the
game.
thing is that it actually has like decent gameplay and like there's different mechanics for different guns and like it's decent. Like I said,
Yeah.
gameplay wise. So why not?
How often do you pull from video games into your D&D sessions? Like, I'm gonna make this mini game.
You
Because
have
I'm gonna
no
tell you,
idea.
it's like I'm a huge JRPG guy, right? So
Okay.
I played those for years, and for me, everything's like, okay, how did Final Fantasy VI do it? And that's how, I want to be. I pull a lot of references from that. We
Yeah.
have a new in our Icewind Dale run that we're doing. Because I like to homebrew is something we definitely need to talk about too. I made a whole series of gems, kind of like World of Warcraft, jewel crafting, for them to upgrade their weapons. Because when you look at Icewind Dale, there is a treasure thing, but there's not really a lot of amazing items. There's some that are really great in there.
Let me tell you, I literally made 32 magical items and put it up on the DM's Guild specifically for Icewind Dale. Like because
Good
there
for
just
you.
wasn't
Thanks.
very much.
No, so I made like a list of jewels, and a jewel can give you, if you spend 1,000 gold, it's a +4 fire damage to your sword.
Nice.
Right,
Okay.
you can sock it, and if
it's like the new Final Fantasy with the socket system.
yeah, it's a materia. Yeah, it's totally yes, it's exactly that, and you can do some other things, and that's like an homage to the games too. I always pull from that. We're also doing the ranger in the group. He wanted he's like, well, can I use my pet? And I'm like, we don't get it to level 3. They're starting at level 1. And I go, because he's my neighbor. He has actual ducks. He has pet ducks. And they're those ducks that don't quack. They're really big. They're very smart and like dogs. And his pet is a duck. And he's like, can I say, well, how can I use him? Because he's kind of like a big part of my story. He's going to be with me. I go, I'll make you a random duck table, like the random goose game, and you can play on the odds. And it's my favorite thing. Like everybody went right to the duck was the star of the show. All my friends are dumb.
You know,
like,
you know how many times oh god, when you bring an animal into a game, they become the center focal point of like every conversation.
Yes.
Well, this like, oh, this is great. This is what's happening. But what's the pig doing this whole time? Like, what's the pig been doing? It's like, well, I don't know. He's over there eating scraps or something.
Right. It's the same with characters, like who they like to lob onto. I go, I need a person that does this. I throw people into the room, and whoever they pick and they like, I'm like, that's the person now. Like I need them to lead them somehow. Because I got tired of being like, this guy, in your head as a DM, you have this fantasy that the players are gonna know exactly like, oh, you want to talk to this player. No, they want to talk to the turtle bard that's just supposed to be playing the piano. And they want to bring him on an adventure. And he has a whole backstory.
Or they're going to start a band. Like, you don't know.
Dude,
you don't know.
Right? No, we had a Haragon that they really liked that was like selling them items and was hooking them up. And I knew a big attack was coming. And I go, hey, can you roll something? And he rolled a 2. And I go, a giant boulder falls on him and he's dead. Like, I was like, I knew where it was going. So now it's almost comical that if they like something, you as a DM, sometimes, you got to draw some boundaries.
Rocks fall, everybody dies.
Yeah. Well, everybody, how many times in those like professional gaming groups have you dealt with a TKP? TPK, sorry.
Yeah.
Let's
all truth be told, in the 20 years that I've been gaming, 20 years plus, I've never had a TPK.
Whoa.
I have never had a TPK. As a player and a DM. As a player, I hold on.
You've had players die, right?
Hold on. Well, yes, that I have.
Okay.
As a player, there was one game that we nearly TPK'd, but thanks to a generous DM and a hell of a lucky roll, we were able to pull through somehow.
That
So
you give a Hail Mary when it's been a long game. You're like,
you
okay.
have no idea. So if you don't mind, like a quick story time.
No, I want. That's what you're here for. Tell me all your stories. I'm just like giddy to hear 'em.
Absolutely. One of my favorite stories ever in D&D was literally a 3-person game. It was a DM and one of my other buddies that we were playing as players. And we were playing for probably, I think, 5, maybe 6 weeks, and trying to kind of go through this campaign and everything like that. And we found out that one of my buddies that was in the group, the other player that was in the group, he was moving away. And so we only had this one last game to play. And so we were able to basically kind of jump ahead in the story. So that way we can kind of get to where like the good stuff or like the meat and potatoes of the actual story were. And we had to fight a dragon. And it was just me and this other dude. So it's 2 people fighting this dragon. I was a not a death cleric, a cleric of the grave.
Okay.
And he was a barbarian. And we fought and fought and fought until finally we both got hit by a breath weapon at the same. No, I lied. He went down, and then I got hit with a breath weapon that was going to take me down because I was on my way to go resurrect him because I had range spare the dying. If you aren't familiar with that, that basically means that I could stop him from dying at least until I get there.
Thank you. And tell listeners, because I want to welcome anybody new and somebody that doesn't know or is too scared to ask.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, instead of him dying on the ground, I can like stabilize him until I can run over there and give him a little bit of a heal. So I was on my way to do that, and the dragon hit me with a breath weapon that literally just demolished me and took me down. So 2 unconscious players. That's it. That's the TPK. We die, right?
Right.
Well, it was the last game. Like that was it. It would have ended on a TPK. So, and we were just kind of
very poetic. The dice tell the story.
Yeah, we were kind of bummed, and we were like, I don't know, man. Like, do we end on a TPK? I was like, what can we do? I mean, like the rules are the rules. Like, we died, man.
Right.
And my DM was like, look, it's our last game. If you can somehow roll a natural 20.
Religion check. Pray to your God, right?
I'll let you get back up with 1 HP.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. I mean, obviously that's it's within the rule set is if you roll a natural 20, you get back up with 1 HP.
Right.
But I was dead.
Oh, you got demolished. You went to negative. Okay.
Yes.
For those that don't know, if you go to the negative amount of your HP, that is instant death too.
Right. Exactly. And so anyways, so he was like, roll a natural 20 and you can get back up. And we're both just like, come on. And so I'm all right, let's do this thing.
Oh, yes.
All right. Pull it in. Got the dice. I'm blowing on the dice. I like run into the kitchen, make my wife blow on the dice. And I'm like, you got to blow on the dice. We got this. And I roll it. And it's a natural freaking 20.
Beautiful.
And we did like the whole Super Bowl scream. I was running around the house. People were celebrating. Like I was kissing babies. Like that was the end all be all, because not only was that the ability or like the opportunity to get up with 1 HP, I was able to resurrect my friend right then and there during the fight. We literally finished the fight and beat the dragon.
There you go.
At the very end of it because of it. And that story I will remember for my entire life.
That's the moments. That's why you play D&D, for the storytelling, right? Yeah. My player, like, they haven't had a moment like that. The most random thing when someone's like, okay, I want to do this. I did a snowboarding minigame And they're like, I want to do this trick. And he had a cat in his backpack, and the cat is going to hold the snowboard and do a 360. He says all this stuff. And I'm like, it's going to need to be a nat 20. Nat 20! He just starts, I go, you do it. That's fine. And everyone's just, like, it's never been some tense moments yet. But I always want to be curious with TBKs. And the options, because players need to know, like, you can get resurrected, you can go find a druid, there's storytelling. The thing for me, how much is it for you when you like, personally, it sounds like you like to have a really strong narrative for your group, and then the mechanics are fun, but I'm sure you run into groups that are like, I just want to crunch numbers and kill things, right, in your DMing, or is it people want a story driven? What do you think it's more of?
So, I mean, for me, like, my players know what they're getting when they get into my game. Like, they
Right.
know that they're gonna get like a deep story. I so not only was I doing the whole D&D thing, but before I got into like really professionally DMing, I did voice acting for a
Right.
while.
Actually, I was going to pull up your website real quick here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've done voice acting, and I help people with voice acting and stuff like that. So, there is some really awesome opportunities that I've had that allow me to really kind of, I guess, I don't know how to say it, like, basically uh hone my craft, if you will, and
Yeah.
become that dungeon master that really brings the games to life. And so that to me is one of my selling points, is to be able to say, like, I can really truly bring these characters to life because I can treat each one differently. Your brain is gonna like, you're gonna assume this person's talking because that's how it sounds, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I give them that role play experience. But the thing about me whenever I play is that yes, we play a lot of role play and stuff like that, but combat is pretty serious. Like, it just is. Like, we have all this role play in the world and stuff like that, but you need to understand and realize that you also need to know how to fight.
Right. You have to respect the mechanics of the game, and you want
Exactly.
to build that, because it's part of it too. For me, the video games are the big influence, but I've found, so I'm your personal game, is that based on a D&D world, or is that your own homebrewed world? Everything is you
The
guys.
one I'm
How?
currently in, the one
Yeah,
I'm
you're the one with your buddies. Yeah,
so the one
your
with my
personal.
buddies. No, we're actually playing. I think we're just playing another deep game.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you jump around from that. Do
yeah.
you like a module versus that, or have you done a created, like, this is, we're doing everything and this
Oh
is our?
yeah. My
Okay.
my first, like, jump into DMing, like, when I first started DMing, I said, I'm gonna screw it. I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna
Right.
make my own. I made my own world. Shiradar. I made Shiradar, and I had like my entire map. I had like a giant world map. I had a continental map and everything like that that had all the locations. I wrote out all the different cities and like the populations and what's going on. I wrote out mini quests for every single city, like
Sick.
whenever they approach and get there. Um, I tried to essentially, like, I tried to create Skyrim for, like,
Right.
for a TTRPG, so that way there is a main quest going on. There's a big thing going on, but if they reach a certain point, like in a city or a town or something like that, they're gonna have people that can ask them for favors, or they can be like, "Hey, your adventurers, you guys are known far and wide because of all the stuff you've been doing. I've got this thing, or there's been this thing going on. Why don't can you help us out while you're here?"
Right.
That kind of thing. So, I mean,
I
I did homebrew the hell out of that place.
that's, I think, the best way for people to do it first, because then you kind of you give yourself the leeway to learn the rules, right, and make mistakes.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. The thing is so yes and no. And
right,
the reason is, I
one
think it's
shots
a
are good too. Like,
I think
grab a
it's a
couple
good
one
way to
shots.
start if you're like a really creative person. Like, I mean, like,
True.
creative.
True. True. True.
But if you're kind of struggling with the creative aspect of it, and you kind of just want to run the game to make sure that you're doing it right and stuff like that, I would suggest either doing a module or a one shot
Yeah.
that are
Same.
pre-written, that you get the understanding and everything like that. To me, when I created my world, it was just something that I just like was like, what if this? Like, what
Yeah.
if this
Right.
though? What if this? And it kind of only came to me because I was like watching a ton of shows about D&D, and I had a ton of spare time because
Yeah.
I was unemployed. I had just quit the military, or got out of the military, and so like I just had a bunch of extra time on my hands. So I was like, well, I'm gonna build this world. I'm gonna write this
Yeah.
world. So I had tons of time to research. I had tons of time to kind of, and pulling from other people's stuff, like using, for instance, I would go to DM's Guild and like
Yeah.
look up a
quest.
somebody's
Yeah.
quest that they had created. I'm gonna like, okay, I'm gonna stick that into my world, but I'm gonna tweak it to make
Make
it
it my
like,
own a little
yeah,
bit.
to make it seem like it actually fits in, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna take this Time Wizard's dungeon and place it in the middle of a field,
Right. Well, that's the whole thing, right? Like the other joke is DM, like, okay, time to sit and take all the greatest works I know and plagiarize like I've never
Yep,
plagiarized before,
exactly. Yes,
because everybody
absolutely,
can
and do
reference
that.
something.
Do that.
You can you can make it unique to yours. Even if you do something really unique, your players will go, oh, it's this. They'll make a reference to something. You can be like, yeah, it is kind of like that, isn't it? Sometimes you can be unintentional. And you're like,
Oh,
oh,
well, that's the thing. If I ever do that, or if I pull from it, they will 100% know that's where
uh-huh.
I'm getting it from. And then like obviously if they call me out on it, or if they try to do the thing that they did in the movie or whatever, I usually give them inspiration, or I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's exactly what I was aiming
Well,
for here.
I did a time skip, and they're like, "Oh, this is like in game." I'm like, "No, this is like every anime ever, guys. The time skips are a plot device. It's not everything's in game." Um, and then I did a thing which definitely was inspired from Harry Potter, where there's a character they've been running into, and his name was this thing. The person you're looking for, it was his name, the anagram of his name, and they go, "You Tom riddled us." I go, "I did," and I was so excited about it because I had set it up for 6 months, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
waiting because
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. It's chess in a way. Tell me if you feel like this, where the DM has to have some steps to set them up for big things. If you want a story, because your players don't. Okay, tell me if you believe in this philosophy. Your players, the world's cool and important to them, but they care about their character story. And when you make your campaigns about their character story, they're way more engaged. It's way more fun for everybody. That's what people want.
I
Right?
absolutely think that the longer the campaign, the more invested they're going to be in their characters
Right.
versus the story. Like the story is going to be great, don't get me wrong, but if you're running a shorter campaign, let's say a
Yeah.
4 or 5, then the story takes precedence and your characters are just there kind of like doing the thing.
Right.
But the longer it is, I honestly think that's where you're going to get like people that are truly invested in what they've created, and I mean, baby, for so long.
Right.
That's their child. That's their, what they've created.
What'd you say your longest game was? How many years?
Longest game.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I guess maybe we didn't ask that. Yeah. What's your
No. Longest running game would have been like my original game. Well, not my original game, but the game right after that. That's where I played it all online after I joined the military. I would say probably like 5 or 6 years.
And do you still talk to that group? Is that like
Oh yeah, I mean, they're
right?
like my at home like good friends. Like,
That's
so
your
even though we're
your
not
main
playing,
group.
yeah, even though we're not playing, we still chat and talk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's the beauty of the game. That they, if you really get a good group, right? The group dynamic's super important. Knowing like toxic behaviors and what works and doesn't work. As a
Oh yeah.
GM too. Okay, here's something that I always get worried about. Hi Ash, is being called a railroad DM.
Mm.
And I think people throw that around. There are like I've heard the horror stories. What's the YouTube channel where he's a crab and he reads the horror stories?
God, yeah, the one
Yeah,
that just reads Reddit.
yeah, he
YouTube
reads
stories.
it. Brilliant idea. I was like, dang, he took it, and he has good animations. Just wild people, right? That are the worst. But I think to me, a railroad DM would be like you can never tell a player what to say, right? But for if people that like story and structure, you have to have some type of spine for them. Crit Crab, thank you, Linda. Crit Crab is I enjoy it. Like every once in a while, I'll watch a Crit Crab video and be like, oh my god. But I think. Do you ever find that yourself, like you don't want to railroad, you can't railroad, but you have to get them to this spot, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh
there's
yeah.
some type of thing. Yeah.
For sure. So I mean, this is coming from somebody who I run modules professionally.
Right.
And modules are
There's a
pretty
path.
railroady. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to get from point A to point B.
Right.
And if you're gonna get from point A to point B, You need to be able to control those, herding cats is what they always say, right? You need to be able to herd the cats to the destination. And I think a good DM can hide the fact that they're railroading them without railroading them, like
Right.
straight up, like telling them what to do. And you can absolutely guide the players in a general direction
Yeah.
versus, like this is what you need to accomplish. Again, setting expectations before the game
Yes.
starts
Yeah.
is the most important thing you can do,
Right.
because you can start by saying, guys, do whatever you want. I
Right.
don't
Some
care.
people do that.
Play
Right.
the
And then you
game,
just
like
go,
live in the world, go for it. Ride the thing,
right. We're
punch
gonna
the
play with our
guy,
eyes
steal the
closed,
stuff.
use our imaginations. I'm not gonna have
Yeah.
maps because we're gonna set that
But
up down the line. Yeah.
if you come in with the expectation that there is a thing in the world that is happening, and even though your characters might not know it yet, they will be the heroes of legend.
Right. Right.
And they need to somehow get to that point. So if I give you a hint, or if I tell you something is happening, or whatever, even though you might want to in the instance or in the moment, that's fine. But it should be like eating at your thought to be like, there's this overlooming thing that's happening. We need to accomplish this thing, or we need to do something about it.
Right.
And that's where that heroic story comes from. And that's where like you're able to railroad without railroading, because they know that there's eventually a situation or a place they need to go to move the story along.
Right. I fully agree. I think it's also like the group needs to know, like, yeah, I think there's a storyline. Like, people have to understand what railroading truly is. Like, railroading is them like, no, I don't like the outcome. Like, don't call a GM that unless they're really screwing
Oh,
you
for
over.
sure. I
Right.
mean, literally the only way I can think of somebody actually railroading somebody if the player
Yeah.
says, hey, can I open that door? And you're just like, no.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
can
can
I go over
try.
there? No.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's like, yeah, you can try. It's locked. What are you gonna do? Like, give me a creative thing. Yeah, let's reward creativity, and then we can still bring it back around to the story. Yeah, the modules, because this is I my first game is a homebrew. Like, it's all me, right? And I
Yeah.
took Eberron as the background, but it's been destroyed by meteors, so it's very different now. They made some very bad choices. The group. And I'm doing the Icewind Dale thing, but I feel like with those modules, and when you run those for a new group, do you give them everything? Like, oh, there's 10 quests, or whatever they pick to first, you try to get everybody to that quest? Like, what's your advice for people running a module?
So I do things a little bit different when running a module. I like to create a custom intro
Mm-hmm.
for basically every character. Don't get me wrong, I love the, we all meet in a tavern trope for like shorter games, because it's like, you got to
Yeah.
get them together and they got to do
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We met in a tavern. We in Icewind. That's how
Yeah.
we started. But yeah, it's the
And
standard.
and it's a trope for a reason. It's
Right.
because it works and it's good. It's
Yeah.
not like a trope for, oh, it's crappy, you don't
Right.
do that. But no, anyways, yeah, for instance, like with Rime of the Frost Maiden, I had what I called a 0.5 session with every one of the characters, and I literally had a one-on-one D&D session with them.
Mm.
And I ran them through kind of like where I basically said, where are you? Place your character in the world. Place your character in the world for me in this location, obviously, giving them
Right.
a spot. Place them in the world for me. And I'm going to write you a way to get you from here to where you are all going to eventually meet up at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
You
so,
got
like, I had people coming from like the wastelands. I had people that lived in certain parts of the towns. I had people that like were desperate for money. I had someone that was like being like haunted and chased in their dreams, and like they had a vision to like go to a certain location, or like find a certain thing that might help them. But eventually they all met up at a blacksmith, like
right.
because they all, for different reasons. Some of them were getting paid from the blacksmith because they worked for him. Some of them had a vision. Some of them were like passing by. Like
Right.
it was a bunch of stuff.
And it's always good shit. That's great, and that's the thing. The players, we set those expectations. Like, hey, it's give and take. Like, you want to do this with a character, okay? Like, a good group too will take suggestions. When we were doing the Icewind Dale, the rogue of our group was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be a deep gnome, and he wanted to play this really cool character. And my friend Sean, shout out to Sean if you're watching, he always goes for the joke.
Name dropping.
He always goes for the joke, and I was like, you want to play a really cool character? Like, don't be a gnome for the joke because you're little. Like, be something. He's like, I think I'm gonna be a sea elf. I go, rad, do it. He's like, they have cold resistance too. I was like, excellent, perfect for Icewind Dale.
Yep.
And it made the character cool. But it's like you have that conversation. Like, I think this would be cool if you did this. Like, it's like playing instruments together too. Like, oh, hey, have you tried this? Or what do you guys want from me to feedback? The feedback loop's really important to D&D because it's like you want everybody's giving up their time and everybody wants to be in sync to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I love that. I Dice Cream Sandwich had this one idea for a starting where you start out dead. Everyone's dead and and a necromancer has summoned you and you're it's Suicide Squad. See, again, like I'm talking about, right? The reference, right?
Yeah,
you're all bad. You might have been bad guys.
No, it's funny. It's even funnier when you get called out on it because it's like, dang, I thought I was hiding.
Or you just own it too. Be like, yes, and you move on. Yeah. Come on, we're all here. Like Simpsons did it, guy. Like
exactly. It's been done. That's the thing. It doesn't matter how original your thought you might think your thought is. Mm-hmm. We're in the year 2023. Okay, your thought has been thought like 5 billion times before this. Like, don't even think about it. But you might be presenting it to people who have never heard about it. So go for it.
Well, I think to wrap up our show, something that I always give thought to, and I love this conversation with D&D fans, and you're a Lord of the Rings fan.
Yep.
What class is Gandalf in your mind?
What class is Gandalf?
I don't think he's a wizard. Like, I had this whole thing. I'm like, he's not a wizard. And people are like, what? No.
Okay.
No, he is a wizard.
Geez. Okay. I would say that Gandalf is definitely part fighter.
He uses the sword, right?
He was using a staff and a sword in like combination, riding a horse constantly, proficiency in like cavalier riding a horse kind of thing. So part fighter, maybe. Oh man, I want to say wizard, but like, is it wizard?
He doesn't study. He doesn't sorcerer. Study. He's a sword. I would actually even argue there's a Hexblade Warlock.
Hexblade Warlock.
Yeah.
Who's the patron though? Who's the patron?
The Eagles.
The Eagles.
The birds. I can't think of the name of it. I'm so bad. I love the thing because he's the only one I know in the Silmarillion they talk about they hate people writing on them. So the fact that he did that, he's got some type of pact with him. Or there's the Celestial.
Some kind of connection with the Celestial.
Yeah, he's a Celestial too. He's not a human. Right? Exactly. That's the other thing. So there's all these discussion. It's my favorite. I could also make the argument he's a paladin. And
I would do the first thing. First thing I was thinking was paladin, but I'm like, God, he doesn't really ever wear armor. He doesn't ever wear like
the branding smite when he's in the cave. That sword goes on.
Yeah, for sure it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Green flame blade, kind of like
that. Again, that could be the Hex Warlock. He could be like a combo Warlock Paladin. He's definitely a multi-class.
Oh, 100% a multi-class. Absolutely a multi-class.
Yes. And if you're ever wondering about should I yes, do it. It's really fun. Everyone should multitask.
Just don't do the like. Oh God, what's his name? Oh man, what's his name on YouTube? The one who did like a million different multi-classes and made it funny and drew it all out. God, it's like it's on the tip of my tongue. But anyways, he made like a character that has that has like 10 multi-classes and stuff like that. Absurd is his name. The character's name is Absurd. But anyways, don't be like that because like honestly, at that point, you're just like running around as a level 2 character around like level like 15, 20 characters because you only can get so much of that class as much as you put into it. So right, and own your class and own your character. Well, I'm glad we had this talk. Now everyone else can be wondering, or who, if you're listening, are arguing, no, Gandalf's this. Some people are really thinking about it, and we probably pissed some people off, and they're like, no, you got it wrong. I'm telling you, that dual wielding, like sword staff kind of thing, that sets you off. And of course,
Yeah.
magic wielding while doing that. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. And and
he's
there's
got
arguing great,
Warcaster in there somewhere.
right. And when he becomes white, I think he becomes the paladin because he's taken the oath too,
I can
right?
see that. I can
Yeah.
see that.
I love that. It's one of my favorite. Like, hey, let's have a fun convo here. And I had a lot of fun conversations with you tonight, Dan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Where
Thanks for
can
having me.
people find you, or where can they get more of you?
Well, if you want more of me, which I don't know why you would want that, you could find me online basically everywhere at Nat1Fun. So NAT, the number one, and then FUN. And mostly on Twitter. I mean, you could see that my Twitter is probably the more active thing. Unfortunately, I've been sick for like the past like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you got hit by that. You got the ear infections, right? The really bad ones, right? Yeah.
Everything. Sorry, content warning, but I was like literally bleeding from my ear. Like I had like an earache, and then it turned into an ear infection, and then I
Yeah.
blew out my eardrum, and then like and then before that, I was sick with like COVID and the flu. It was terrible, terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. And
Recovering now, not very
yeah.
much content right now. But I mean, I like you were saying before, I'm working on the Johnny Stanton project. Um, I have uh, I have stuff going with like my Nat1Fun show that I'm going to be bringing back in February, called Running Fey Wild, where it's an actual play of uh, oh my gosh, the fun one that's also fun.
The Fey
Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
The Wild by the One Witchlight. Yeah, I was gonna say
Wild
the
Beyond
Wild
the
one.
Witchlight.
Cool.
So it's a Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign, but it's 100% turned on its head. It's an isekai, like,
Yes.
and it does not take itself seriously at
100%.
all.
One, kudos to you. Inspiration I'm giving you for making an anime reference. So
So
I
yeah,
salute you.
it's absolutely an off the walls bonkers show. If you like that kind of stuff, then you're gonna love this. We have an amazing cast. You should check it out. But that's coming in February, and I got a lot of stuff coming on YouTube and stuff like that too. I've been trying to really make more videos, but it's just honestly I've been too sick recently to
Yeah.
do that. So, but yeah, you can find me online. Nat1Fun. Check me out everywhere.
And you can find all of those things in the description below for those of you listening to the audio version. If you like what you heard or you have questions, you can also click those links to follow us. We're on Underpowered TV at Twitch. We have Underpowered is the main channel. We do video games. We do Pokemon trading cards, card games. But this is just Dice Night. We did our first thing of Icewind Dale. Second part, the continuation of the actual play is going to be February 4th. So if you want to come watch that live, or if you just want to listen, the audio version, you get a little bit, you get a week after, and it's cleaned up for you if you like the hear the play of it all. And Dan, again, thank you so much. And if you ever need a player, just I'm on the bench, coach. Put me in. Give me a chance.
You got it. All right.
All right. Everybody have a good night. Dan, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
I think we're still live.
Oh.